Hello and welcome back to episode 2. Hello, welcome back to In the Net podcast for episode 2. This week we're going to carry on talking about the Euros from the last part of last week's episode, and we're also going to talk about the end of the season, go into more depths with the Euros in terms of our squads. What are we thinking, guys, for the end of the season?
Well, I'm happy.
Yeah, well, we know
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Forwardness.
Honestly, for 74 minutes of the game, I was bricking myself a little bit. You could probably tell, like, especially when the the final games kicked off, it was a little bit tense for me. And then Leicester scored quite early on, which gave us a greater sense of urgency. But I think at the end of the day, we got there in the end. Even though we went 1-0 up with Mane scoring initially, I was still a bit worried that Palace, being the bogey team for Liverpool, they'd come back and, spoil the party. But overall, it was a good result. And, like, for the worst Premier League title defence in history, it's not bad finishing in not just the top 4, but the top 3. So, yeah, that's all I'm going to say. I can see Lamb shaking his head already.
It's just such an escape, such a great escape. They should make a film. They could make a film out of it.
Well, if it was Spurs, there'd definitely be a DVD coming.
100%. But yeah, what an escape! When you were planning your Thursday night, now you finish third. What an ending!
Yeah,
what an ending. Sad for Leicester though. I think everyone is. Maybe every football fan.
I'm gutted,
a little
man.
bit sad. Yeah.
Especially for Rodgers, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely for Rodgers. Like, he deserved. Well, they did win the FA Cup though, but I guess like going from what they did last season and this season, it seems like the same stories happened again. So they were in the running, and then towards the end, they seemed to not manage to get the results that they want, and then other teams are basically just coming to hunt them down.
Yeah, and also with Leicester, I think like the sort of last few games of the season, they've missed Evans, and they had the worst possible start for them today with Fofana having to come off injured because like already they're not as strong as they could be there, and then they lose Fofana in such an important game. I don't know. I think if Fofana and Evans are on the pitch, they don't lose to Spurs.
No, same. Evans, I think he's a solid defender. I think he's forgotten about as well. At United, for one season, I think we conceded something like 19 goals or 21 goals, something like that. And either Ferdinand or Vidic was injured. So it's like Ferdinand played a string of like 8 games, got injured. He came back, played 2 games with Vidic, then Vidic got injured.
Yeah.
And Evans kept stepping in, and he played the most out of the 3. And it was one of our best actually defensive seasons. I think there was a season better than that with Ferdinand and Vidic, but nevertheless, Evans did his bit. So I think Van Gaal came and just, personally, I think Van Gaal was worse than Moyes, by the way, in terms of what he did to United. Just ripped it apart. But yeah, I was sad to see Evans go because I thought he was a good player.
But hang on, quickly on Van Gaal. the one big defence of him is Rashford, but he was absolutely forced into playing him. Like they had no other choice. It wasn't some masterstroke, but yeah, Evans, quality defender, and yeah, gutted Leicester didn't make it. Even more so the fact that it meant Chelsea got in, but there we go.
And Chelsea didn't exactly have a good game either. Yeah, to draw that game, especially how Villa came out of the blocks, went 1-0 up, and then Mendy getting injured as well, so Kepa had to be brought on. It's I don't know how Chelsea have managed to do it, and to be fair, it's going to be interesting given that their Man City have 1 game to go with the Champions League final, so that could be a tasty encounter as well. But yeah, just another note about picking up on the David Moyes point. West Ham making the Europa League. Any thoughts about that?
I just think he's done an amazing job there. I mean, West Ham fans do my absolute head in because they're always, oh, we should be doing this, we should be playing the West Ham way, blah, blah. And why? Like, they've not done anything of note for years. And they've tried paying big money for people. They've tried foreign managers that have won things. And then Moisey came in, had his little stint where he was the interim manager, did well. But then they brought in Pellegrini. So they bring him back in. And he's just done such a good job. It was madness not giving him the job in the first place. With what he's got there, probably done him a favour this year. They're not having the fans in the stadium.
So I think with Moyes at United as well, most United fans will disagree with me, but see, I didn't hate him as much as most United fans did, because I think what Fergie did with that team, most managers would fail. Like, they're doomed to fail with that team. It was just Fergie that could make that team champions. So when Moyes came in, the only thing that I blame Moyes for is changing the whole backroom stuff. I think from what was told, or what was told to the media at least, is that he came in and he changed it all, rather than keeping the guys that Fergie had. He brought his Everton backroom staff in, and which I probably disagree with. But apart from that, the squad he had is not comparable to what Van Gaal had or what Mourinho had. When Mourinho came in with Zlatan, Pogba, all of them. Moyes didn't have that. So, yeah, I do feel for him a little bit, but no doubt, quality manager. Maybe like a big job like United or, Liverpool, Chelsea is probably too much for him. But certain managers, they're just that level and they can prove themselves at that level. But any higher, they probably just can't cut it.
Yeah.
I think when you've mentioned Evans as well and Moyes, they got this stigma and this label of United reject, and it's been following them around for a bit. Evans has kind of gotten rid of it at Leicester. Moyes has now gotten rid of it at West Ham. I think that label stuck around with them. So, like you said, Evans massively underrated. Moyes as well underrated. In the running for what? Manager of the season, I'd say. He's in the running.
It's who I'd give it
Definitely
to.
in the running.
100%.
Also, Jesse Lingard has completely transformed into a player that he basically wasn't at United. I don't think he's ever played that well, even before the Mourinho days or even the Ole days. He's completely transformed himself, and he's definitely put himself back into the running for England. And I think credit's got to be where it's due to David Moyes to get the most out of the player as well.
Do you think that's Moyes though, or do you think it's him going to a different club, different system, and just being unleashed and having this free role? Or do you think it is down to Moyes as well? His man management, coaching, everything, building his confidence.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the position as well. I don't know if you guys agree with me. Obviously I'm a United fan, love Bruno, but like the comparison between Bruno and Lampard. Like, Lampard was obviously more of a number 8, right? Whereas Bruno is almost like the furthest.
More advanced.
Sometimes he's the most furthest player in the team. Sometimes if Cavani drops a little bit, then you can almost, and you look at the team, Bruno's almost the furthest up. Yeah, he's almost like a striker. When you compare Lampard and Bruno, or sometimes, like the comparisons between De Bruyne and Pogba. I mean, De Bruyne is slightly more advanced than Pogba, so comparing them and their goals and assists is a bit unfair. So similarly, comparing Lampard and Bruno, perhaps it's unfair to Lampard, because Lampard did play slightly deeper than Bruno, because Lampard used to make those runs right into the goal and score. And so because of that, I think Lingard now, where he's playing, if you watch West Ham, he's almost a second striker. Yeah. I don't think he ever played that at United. The furthest he played at United was probably attacking midfield or on the left, sometimes on the right, but he was never almost a second striker. Whereas now, he's more or less always behind Antonio.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's almost always behind Antonio, and just sometimes Antonio is laying off to him and he's running on, and he's never had that role. So I think it's a big thing is where you're playing.
Yeah.
Weren't United sticking him out on the left at sometimes?
Yeah, a lot of the time.
Right on the wing, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing I think Lingard though is I don't know, I might be chatting absolute rubbish, but I think he needs to be like the main man or like one of the key players, because I think he thrives on that sort of that pressure, and he plays with the sort of swagger of somebody who's the main man. So when you're coming on as a sub for Man United after 65 minutes, like you're not going to play with that sort of confidence. I think he needs to be starting week in, week out. And I think if West Ham can make that deal happen, and do you know what? I think United would be quite fair with the fee because I think they know what he's done for the club, and I think he's valued there. I don't think they'll try and price him out of a move to West Ham.
Well, I think he's coming up to a stage where he is going to come to his prime, or if not, he should be reaching that prime already. And
So
staying.
the question is he better than West Ham? That's the question. Do you think?
I don't think it's necessarily a question of is he better than West Ham, because if you think about it, if he stays with West Ham after the season, they've got Europa League football, so whether you like it or not, it's still a European competition, and they did finish within the top 6 of the Premier League this season. So from that aspect, you can consider West Ham to be a good place to be. It may not be Champions League football, but you are going to have the competitive element, both competing in the league for a similar position and also to compete in Europe, because let's be honest, Europa League isn't the Champions League where you have stacks of top teams like Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico, Inter, Juve, Bayern, etc. I'm missing a lot of teams out there, I know. The Europa League do have some good teams, but I think any team that qualifies for that competition from England should be thinking, I'm in with a chance to win this this competition. Because
well, is that stigma, like, you know, like for example, West Ham might have finished ahead of Arsenal, but if you ask a player whether they go to Arsenal or West Ham, more chance of them saying Arsenal.
But right now I don't think that's a fair comparison. I think at this moment in time, Arsenal may have won the FA Cup last season, but in terms of potential and form and where the club and the direction is going, I still think that they're equal pegging at the moment. You can't say that Arsenal, given their history with the Invincibles and given their past.
Well, so you're saying West Ham are right now a player making a decision whether they want to go to West Ham or Arsenal.
A player based in England will probably see no difference between the two. However, for historical reasons, if you're a European player, especially from France, given the Wenger influence for the team, then you might consider differently. West Ham may not have the international exposure, but they're still a big club in terms of the fan base, in terms of the size, in terms of location.
I'm not throwing shade at West Ham, but I think certain names are just there. Like Arsenal, I think, you know, if you give Lingard the option at the end of the season, that Arsenal are coming to you and West Ham are coming to you, I think he'll look back in his career. And again, no doubt West Ham are a big team in the UK, in England, but I just think Arsenal still, look, their history is not, we're not talking, it's still very recent, right? You know, the last, 10 years ago, they were still a very big team, right? So right now, I know they've been, you know, battling for 4th and then battling for 6th. Now they're just about finishing in the top half, but they're still Arsenal, right? They're still that team that you associate Thierry Henry with, Patrick Vieira with. So I don't know, like, just one season, I don't think it's enough. Like, I'll give you an example, right? Like, if you ask Moyes or even Brendan Rodgers, for example, he's at Leicester now and they just finished 5th. If you say to him that the Arsenal vacancy open, would he go to Arsenal? Would he see it as it's a bigger club and this will look good on my CV and I can look back and say I managed Arsenal once? Or do you think he'll stay at Leicester?
I think he'd stay at Leicester.
I think he'd stay at Leicester as well. Like, honestly, you have an owner who values the club, who values the community around it, and values the city. At Arsenal, I don't think you need to speak to most, like every Arsenal fan. But
well, could you say the same about Celtic, though? So when he was at Celtic and he came to Leicester, Celtic are a massive team.
It's a massive team.
Fan base, amazing.
But I think
small pond, I think.
Amazing, but you wanted Leicester.
I think, Lam, going to your point, I agree with you. It is a bit like a big fish in a small pond in terms of the Scottish Premier League. And to be fair, like, if you are a manager and you want to manage teams in the top leagues, irrespective of the size, if a Premier League team comes for you, or a La Liga team for that matter, you probably want to jump ship. Going back to my point, you don't need to ask that many Arsenal fans, but given how a lot of them are discontent with Kroenke, and that group being in charge of the board, and given what's happened in the most recent few weeks with the Super League and all of the aftermath of it, I still think Leicester would be a better place, especially for a manager, to take their team.
I'm going to have to disagree with you there.
I agree with you, and it's purely because it's Leicester. I think if you chose, say he was at Everton, I think he'd go to Arsenal, or say he was at Villa, I think he'd go to Arsenal. I think Leicester have just got everything right, and I think he would value the fact that he gets the back in. They don't sell their players. They'll sell one player a season maybe, but I just think Leicester's such a well-run club. I think Brendan knows he could maybe in the next 4 to 5 years push them on to where Arsenal are now. He knows how brutal football is because he's been to Liverpool, come second.
Can he push them to like certain clubs? I just feel like for example, when Leicester won the league, season after, Mahrez gone, Kante gone, right? Certain like the team, no doubt, ran amazingly, but I just think like holding on to players and building that team is difficult. I don't think it's easy. So like even when United weren't finishing top 4, we were finishing 6th, 7th. We're still attracting big names, right?
Yeah.
It's because it's United. So you could say, okay, when Leicester won the league and United were finishing out of the top 4, why are the big names coming to United and not Leicester? When Leicester have got a vision, they've got a good.
Yeah,
owner,
but
I was just I think it's just because it was a bit of an anomaly, and like you said, United have got that background and history, the prestige.
So do you not think
that everyone
Arsenal
want
have
to
that?
go. Huh?
Do you not think Arsenal have that?
I think Arsenal have got
not
it
as big as
still.
United, but
if you look at the quality of players they've still got top quality players, or well, a few.
But
United
then
or Arsenal?
if you're a player hitting your prime, like say you're about to turn 28, and you think back to the last 8 years of Arsenal, they've done nothing, and I'm not saying a player would probably go to Arsenal, but I just think in 5 years' time, I think Leicester are still going to be finishing above Arsenal in the league, because I just think the Arsenal board, the ownership, they're not interested in putting enough money in to make them competitive. I think they're getting out of it what they want from them just sort of being the nearly club. It makes me laugh though, because Arsenal fans used to moan like anything about finishing 4th every season, and they would absolutely kill to finish 4th now.
Didn't they finish 4th for just under 20 years, or maybe just over? And
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
As soon as he left, the Arsenal identity is gone, and now Leicester have got their own ethos, identity of not just good football, but a bit of compassion for the person as well. They're not just focused on running the club as a business. It's much
such a cool club, man. Like, as a Championship fan, I'm so jealous of Leicester. That is what I want City to do.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Total
Get up there, spend the money to stay there, but then don't become this big thing that's just about making money or whatever. Take the fans with you, like Leicester have. It's been so good.
They gave them what was it? Water, a brownie, and a little flappy thing today.
Yeah.
I think for the final game. And I think one question though: do you think, like you said, when they lost Mahrez and they lost Kante and a few more, do you reckon in a year or two they might lose? I don't know, Barnes, Fofana.
Yeah. That's I was literally about to say.
Is that what you're thinking?
That's literally my next point was going to be. I can see Vardy staying because of his age, but if say Vardy was 3 or 4 years younger, I could see Vardy leaving, right? Similarly,
he had the chance, didn't he?
Sorry.
He had the chance, didn't he?
He had the chance, yeah. Funnily enough, I think Arsenal actually wanted him at the time when they got Van. But yeah, Fofana, who else? Maddison, they're all being linked to bigger clubs, right? Now, if they say yes, then they almost have to not rebuild completely. I'm not saying it's like a whole rebuilding project, but they still have to kind of fill in that player now. Okay, so you lose Maddison, then you have to find that attacking midfield, and then you lose Fofana, who Max, you mentioned earlier, with Johnny Evans and Fofana being such a crucial part of their defense, right? Then who do you get? Evans is obviously aging. How old is Evans now? 34, 35? Right? So
yeah, he's got to be right now.
Yeah, so yeah, I just think teams like that, when they get a player and they get recognized, it's hard to hold on, and then they're gone. Liverpool were that not too long ago when Suarez, when he almost like what? I think how long was Suarez at Liverpool?
So he left just after the 2014 World Cup, didn't he?
Yeah.
So
how long was he at Liverpool? 2-3 years?
He joined during Kenny Dalglish's era, so I don't actually remember off the top of my head, but he was there for like a good 3 or 4 seasons. Actually, let me quickly look that up now.
Maybe that was Dalglish's.
2012, possibly.
Yeah, as soon as he got recognized,
it was
Suarez, same thing. Yeah. like a lot Alonso, Xabi Alonso, a lot of these players. I mean, that Liverpool were that until Klopp came, and I think he's just made a team that every world class player wants to come and play at and stuff like that. But
go on, finish it.
Yeah. But I think like Leicester, they'll struggle. Like they'll struggle to hold players. And I think if Brendan Rodgers sees that for a year or two, that okay, I built a team, we almost finished fourth, and the next season I got 2 players wanted to go, and the season after just about finished fifth again, sixth maybe. And then it'll be like, okay, best player gone again. He's going to obviously feel like, you know what, I want to be the other side of it now, where I recognize a good player and I can buy them as opposed to make a good player and end up selling them. I don't know. From a manager's perspective, that's how I look at it.
I think to answer that point, so just checked, it wasn't 2012. He joined in 2011 in the January transfer window, the same season when Torres decided to leave, and then Andy Carroll was also signed for
35 mil, wasn't it?
Yeah. Moving swiftly on. So I think to answer that, so there was that point after, especially towards the end of the Hicks and Gillette ownership, where we saw Xabi Alonso go, we saw Mascherano go, we saw Torres leaving as well. Liverpool basically were a selling club for a few seasons, so Suarez being the one in particular, but also there was Raheem Sterling going to City as well. And the thing really changed when Klopp took over. And I think that's where Brendan really is with Leicester in terms of building the project. Because if you think about it, everything is basically built from the foundations. So it's not just the transfer department and just signing players. The scouting team have a big say in that. And also in terms of development, like if you think about the facilities that Leicester have now put in, and in terms of the pipeline that they have with young players, and then, as you mentioned, they'll be nurturing young players and getting them into the first team. And now the fact that they've won the Premier League a few seasons ago, they've recently just won the FA Cup. If they continue winning trophies, they'll stop becoming a selling club, and people will have to start looking at them seriously. But it's not going to be changed overnight. Think about how City were pre-2008. They weren't even...
City just went in and threw cash at players.
Yeah, but...
I remember Sheikh Mansour, he literally had cards of... I don't know if you guys remember this. We had like Ronaldinho, Robinho, all of these players, and he was throwing at. He was like 100 mil, 80 mil, 90 mil. Like
cash or no cash though. It's the same principle. They were pretty much a small club which got taken over, and then over a few seasons they brought in the right people in terms of the management. If you look at the City facilities now, and like you can see young players coming through, like even the likes not just Phil Foden, but like Jadon Sancho and a few other players who have now gone off to play in the Bundesliga or other teams in England. Like they have got a pipeline which is basically, it feels like a copy-paste from La Masia in Barcelona, but it seems to be working.
That's what it is. They brought in all the technical directors from Spain, didn't they, from Barcelona? Yeah,
so while the Arsenal v Leicester perception may be what it is now presently, I think in a few seasons, as Max alluded to in terms of performance and the trajectories, perceptions will change, and I think
I hope so. I'd rather see Leicester up there than Arsenal for sure.
Quickly, last thing from me on Leicester is literally, I get what you're saying here. I just think that this next season coming up, they've just won the FA Cup. All right, they're disappointed they didn't get in the Champions League, but this next season coming up, if they make the Champions League, then that sort of
cements it.
Yeah, not cements it, but that is the next step for them. And then if they can build on that with Rodgers, spending decent money, because they've backed their managers, and I mean it's just unfortunate that the last time they got to the Champions League, Ranieri spent like 35 million on Islam Slimani, who was just like no. But I just think if they make the Champions League this year, then they are banging with a chance of really building something that could last. Like for a
Who was before Rodgers?
Sorry?
Who was the manager before Rodgers?
Is it Claude Puel?
Yeah.
Yeah, very defensive. They hated him then, didn't they?
Yep. But anyways, I think that's enough talking about Leicester. Just one final note before we move on to discussing about the Euros. And I know we did cover about England in the last podcast, but we did have a task where we were to name 26 members of who we would take to England, and ahead of Tuesday's announcement, we thought it'd be a good idea to basically go through and review which I guess each four of our submissions, and then we can basically analyze and debate about them. But just on the
go on, sorry.
just on the final note, I just wanted to say if there's going to be a bit of a sad note in terms of Sergio Aguero leaving the Premier League after everything he's done, but it's looking like he won't be in the Premier League next season. His contract's due to expire, and there's a lot of talk about him joining Barcelona. But I think it's worth giving 1 or 2 minutes just to note, just especially about that, his impact in terms of the Premier League, especially getting City their first title. I think it's worth giving him a shout out, because that final few minutes of that season where he scored that very, very last goal against QPR.
Premier League history, innit?
Yeah.
Aguero.
Exactly.
I still have nightmares about that.
Gives me goosebumps every time I watch it.
Yeah,
so good.
What a striker! I mean, he's got to be up there with the best ever strikers in the Premier League, along with Henry, and he is. I mean, he scored 2 goals today, didn't he? He barely played all season, but yeah, he's an unbelievable striker.
What I like about him as well is he's just so clinical. I know there's a lot of strikers that are, but I just feel sometimes he doesn't even look up.
And it's
just
bang,
a killer instinct. Yeah. Always make sure. It reminds me of, if you ever watch compilations of what's his name, Gerd Müller.
Yeah.
In Germany, rarely kind of side-footed it. Always used to smash it just to make sure. That's what I love about it.
Levered it.
Yeah, love it.
But I was going to say, on the season review, who would you guys say best striker, best midfielder, and best defender? Just one each. We're not going to do the whole team. But
what about the goalies?
And goalie. I think goalie's got to go to thingy, right? Edison.
I was going to say, yeah. I think so.
You know what I'm going to say? I personally think
Alisson
was that header.
Just because he scored a header.
He was going to say Van Dijk for the best defender of the season.
I think Martinez for Villa.
Yes.
There. I think he'd be up there.
Mine would be Edison, with a special mention for Martinez, because I think he's made a big difference for Villa this year.
Yeah. Defender.
I'm going to go with Ruben Dias, just purely based on the fact that City struggled last season because of Laporte's injury. And then coming back this season, they fixed the problems. They signed Ake, and they also signed Ruben Dias. But I think Dias has basically shown that if you have that depth in the defence, and also he has that defensive leadership that I think they were missing since Kompany has left, and just having that assertiveness at the back has helped City, because if you think about it, they've grown strength on strength, especially since January, and I think a large part of that is having a good backbone in the back four, and he's at the heart of it.
Statistically, Maguire's been better than
Yeah.
So
go get in there.
Are you throwing Maguire into the hat? Because
I'm going to throw Phil Jones. He's not conceded a goal in the film.
Oh, for goodness sake!
But now I'll go. You probably have to say Diaz, because I think last season they looked fine apart from the defense, right? I think Diaz is coming in. He's made Stones look better as well. So either him or what Max said earlier, probably Evans and Fofana have to be mentioned for sure.
Mine's Diaz with a mention for Fofana, because this is his first season in the Premier League and he's just been a monster. What are you saying, Lam?
It's got to be Diaz, but I'm not saying that this player should be up there, but whenever I've been watching Rudiger, I've just been thinking this guy's just keeps getting better and better, and not as... No, that's a head shake. I like him as a player. Yeah, I'm not saying he's up there.
He's probably finished the season
under Tuchel, right? Because Lampard didn't like him.
Yeah, I think he's solid. But he's nowhere near the standard of Diaz and some of the other better centre backs. But this season, I think he's improved, especially under Tuchel. Yeah. But
to be fair to him, I'd like to see him alongside a beast, if you know what I mean. I think he could be. He's played with Zuma quite a lot, hasn't he? And
I don't think that's...
It's back three with either Aspilicueta.
I used to like Zuma. I thought Zuma was a really good player. He had that power, pace. For a defender, he was good on the ball. And then I think with Chelsea as well, they just can't get their centre back pairing right. They're always switching it up.
I was going to say it's the whole Aspilicueta and Thiago Silva debate, right?
Yeah.
They never had a solid solid back three, even under Tuchel. But yeah, I guess going to Ibby's point, Lam, do you want to take best midfielder?
I mean, Fernandez or Penandez, again, gotta be up there. I just love the way he plays, so I think I might have to go for him. But yeah, or give me a minute to think. I'll go Fernandez for now. Hey,
No. We'll come back to you if you want.
yeah.
You can hear all our answers, and then you can pick the best one.
And then I'll choose one of those.
Yeah, what are you saying?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Bruno, man.
Yeah, the United bias is there.
Man. He's broken the record, and I think he's made United kick. Huh?
What's the record? Most penalties in a season?
You know what? If you compare it with Lampard, I think he's actually scored. I don't know if someone could check it, but I think he scored one less penalty than Lampard or something, or one more or something. It's very similar. It's not like he's scored 5 or 6 more pens than Lampard, but I think he's made everyone else play better as well. Like Pogba as well. Pogba looks like he wants to stay. He's playing amazingly. Funny thing is as well, someone sent me this thing the other day. Not only does Pogba play better with Bruno, but you could also see that Bruno wants Pogba to stay as well. So apparently, every time after every game, Bruno shouts out Pogba. Apparently, after every game, it's almost like he's trying to show him, like trying to make him feel the love kind of thing, to convince him to stay. And I think it's not just him, but like Rashford, golden assist this season's been good. The only thing I don't like about United at the moment is the whole McFred combination. I just think we're playing 2 holding midfielders.
I do like McSauce.
Sorry?
I do like McSauce.
He is good. He is good.
Yeah, I just think like if you've got 2 midfielders there, then you shouldn't really be leaking as many goals as you do. Yeah. So, but it is what it is. But yeah, my answer is probably Bruno.
Let me quickly jump back in because I want to give a shout out to Mount. I think Mount's done very well.
Yeah.
And I think.
Oh, and for defender, Cancelo. We forgot about him.
Yeah, he's had a real good season.
Sorry, I'm going Mount.
No, I was going to say Mount, and it's a shame that Grealish got injured because I think if he carried on the way he was going, he could have had a cracking season.
Yeah, but Mount's done well to shut up the haters, hasn't he? Because he used to get so much stick. Everyone's like, "Oh, he's Lampard's son" or whatever.
The teacher's pet.
No, like look at the numbers. I know it's not all about the numbers, but he makes a difference to Chelsea, I think.
It's also.
Go on. I was just going to say, he's like a little rabid dog, just non-stop. But yeah, sorry.
I was going to say like he ended Lampard's reign as captain of Chelsea in the FA Cup tie, and then he goes on and Tuchel's like, oh yeah, is Mount even going to be in a team with Tuchel being the German manager and then Havertz, etc. Being the expensive signing that's probably going to be put into the fray. But I think after a few games, Tuchel's realised how pivotal he is to the Chelsea team, and I think even at this stage he's undroppable, and even at an England level he has to be considered, especially even to start the games, if anything. But I guess the other 2 obvious choices, Bruno has been mentioned, Kevin De Bruyne obviously comes up every season, but the one
he'd be mine.
Yeah, the one
he
player
was
that
injured, wasn't he? Though I think the only thing with De Bruyne was he had like 2 months, 2.5 months out. So I think, otherwise you could say like you can bring other players into it, but I just think 3 months out. Or something.
Then he comes straight back in and just carry on where he left off.
I just think he's the best player in the league, so I just think I've got up and he's my best midfielder.
Yeah, I do want to give a mention and a shout out to one other midfielder. So Ilkay Gundogan, I think has stepped up this season, and he looks like the player that they signed from Dortmund, because I think after all the injury problems that he's had this season, he's shown his versatility, and Pep's basically managed to play him as a 6, an 8, a 10, even as a second striker or false 9, and he's been able to deliver at every task that he's been asked to do. And like even when De Bruyne is out, or even when Aguero, Jesus, Sterling, etc. aren't available, he somehow comes into the team and still manages to step up. I think he's probably been.
Yeah, I think because of Gundogan, they didn't even miss De Bruyne that much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Quick mention for Thomas Souček at West Ham as well.
I
really like him. I think he's waiting to join one of the big clubs. I just think he's more than good enough to.
Plays so elegantly for such a giant.
Bissouma at Brighton.
Yeah,
Wow, what a player.
yeah.
Yeah, I think he's off. I can't see him staying at Brighton.
He's
Like-
going to replace Wijnaldum at Liverpool.
Well, maybe we'll see.
I hope not, because he looks like a beast. Proper box-to-box Patrick Vieira type player.
Yeah, but you got Fred for that anyway.
Give him time.
Yeah, and last but not least, the
Striker.
forwards.
Best striker.
Cavani.
Have a look through.
Cavani.
Such a United fan.
I'm gonna be.
Don't make me get the arrow out.
Oh jeez, dude.
You know,
Really?
I'll kick off best striker. I'm not going to say he's the best player in the league, but he's definitely exceeded expectations because being a Championship fan, all I heard last year was he's not good enough for the Championship. He's not good enough to be the striker for the team that goes up. They won't go up because their striker's not good enough. And it's Patrick Bamford. He's been absolutely brilliant for Leeds. And to score the amount of goals that he's scored for Leeds in his first season at that level in a newly promoted club, I just think he's been brilliant. And he works so hard for the team. So, yeah, he'd be my striker of the season because picking Kane would be boring, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I am going to be boring. I'm still going to pick Kane because he did get the golden boot and he did score today. So, yeah, it's the most boring answer, but I think it'll be stupid not to consider him otherwise. And I think given the lack of silverware at Tottenham, it's probably we may see the last of him wearing a Tottenham shirt. I can see him join another Premier League side or even a European side if he wants to take the leap and leave the Premier League. But I think he is going to end up at one of the other bigger clubs in England.
Yeah.
I want to go for Bamford as well because he, again, like with Mount, just shut the haters up. But I want to give shout-outs to ex-Western boy, Watkins, who's had a cracker. And I think Mikel Antonio hasn't had the best season, but
I like him.
He just still keeps plugging away.
Yeah.
He's just relentless.
If he was fit for 38 games, he'd bang loads of goals, I think.
And yeah, it's just the fact he's so relentless and will keep going, still improving as a striker because he's played pretty much everywhere. Yeah, he's played everywhere.
Big, strong lad as well, isn't he?
Yeah, I think defenders really struggle because he's a unit, but he's still got a good finish in him. But yeah, got to be Bamford for me.
Yeah, who are you saying?
For me, it's between. I want to go for Kane because of not just because of his goals, but also the whole what we were talking about last week about dropping and playing that number 10 role. His assist this season has been crazy. I think he got the highest assist.
Yeah, won them both.
Yeah,
won both.
I think that's unbelievable. But I also want to. I think a lot of people are forgetting about what Salah's done this season. I think Liverpool finishing third. I think Liverpool have been shocking this season, and Salah's goals have almost carried them. They've been certain games. They've just been absolutely nowhere near what they should be playing, and then Salah's come up with the goals. And I think he's been forgotten about. I think most Sky pundits and BP pundits, when they've done their team of the year, they've forgotten Salah. And I don't know how you can forget him when he scored 22 goals this season. I don't think Liverpool will be finishing top 4 without him this season easily. So it's between Salah and Kane, but I'm probably going to go with Kane just because of the whole. A, obviously he's outscored Salah, and B, the assists as well, linking with Son, and yeah, I just think without him, Spurs wouldn't finish in the top half, let alone where did they finish? 8th?
I think, let me get it up now.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid naming any Liverpool players considering how I got shot down with my Alisson comment. So
we've got two people for Kane and 2 for Bamford.
Bamfords. I think, that Liverpool's poor season has just completely overshadowed what he's done.
Yeah.
But still sticking away.
Yeah.
Third. I can't believe he finished third. Still can't get over it.
Put it this way, I think if it was another team in a similar position with the same amount of injuries, they would not have been able to cope. Like, of course, Salah basically was our get out of jail card, and he managed to just create something out of nothing. But I think for whatever reason, especially after losing 6 games at Anfield in the early part of the year, or early part of the new year even, like I was fearing the worst. But whatever happened, like Fabinho moving back into midfield and then having trust in the likes of Nathaniel Phillips at defence, and even with Ozan Kabak or Reece Williams, like they still managed to keep things ticking. And I think towards the end, I think with the Newcastle result where we drew 1-1, all hope was lost, and then like results started going our way, and things just started happening, especially like freak things happening, like Trent scoring against Villa and Alisson scoring a header. It's just like I don't know.
Mentality monsters.
Yeah,
Mentality monsters.
I don't know what to say about that. But shall we move on? Because we've got about 20 minutes left, and I think it's time that we go into what we wanted to cover last week, but we kind of ran out of time because we started talking about Harry Kane and also England's chances at the Euros. So yeah, just to reiterate, we had a small task that we did before we started the first episode of the podcast. So each one of us submitted 26 players who we think should be not theoretically on the plane, because it's basically Euros that's covered across the continent, but I guess who would theoretically make the Euro 2020/2021 squad. So I think how we're going to do this is that I'm going to put each one of our squads up one by one, and you all should have a copy of each of our squads already sent to you so we can review it. And then I've done a side-by-side difference on who we've selected. So let's say if we picked one player, did 3 of us pick the same player, and if one of them left off, and then we can have some conversations about that. So let's do this in alphabetical order. So let's start off with my one. So I'm going to flip the screen on the stream to mine. So should I go ahead and just briefly walk through my...
A run through.
Yeah. So I think the obvious choices were the goalkeepers. So Dean Henderson, Nick Pope, and Jordan Pickford. I think in most people's teams they would have gone for the same. And then going through the...
By the way, Hugh, are you going to put it on the screen?
Yeah, it's on the screen now, but can you look
That's
through?
not what we see.
just can't see it.
Yeah, you aren't able to see it, so that's why I sent it through to you as copies beforehand. But yeah, I guess I've taken the approach that Gareth Southgate is probably going to start with a back 3 or a back 5, depending on how you look at it. So I've gone with Luke Shaw and Ben Chilwell as 2 left-sided wing-backs. And then we've got Stones, Harry Maguire, Mings, and I've put Carl Walker down as a potential right centre-back because that's where I think he's going to play. And then the 2 right-backs or right wing-backs, I've chosen Trent Alexander-Arnold, of course, no brainer there. And then, given Atletico won La Liga, I've also put Kieran Trippier there as well. And then, going into midfield, I've chosen Declan Rice because he is quite versatile and he could also drop into defence if required. And then the rest is Jordan Henderson, James Ward-Prowse, Mason Mount, Phil Foden, Jesse Lingard, and then Jude Bellingham, Jack Grealish, and Jesse Lingard. Why is Jesse Lingard on more than once? Okay. Never mind. I said Lingard twice.
It's still good you put him twice.
Yeah, so good that he's there twice. Whatever.
Yeah, my bad with that.
Yeah. And then in terms of the forwards, I've gone with Raheem Sterling, Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, Harry Kane, Calvert-Lewin, and Ings as my forward choices. So I guess those are my choices. I probably think that we should start debating these afterwards, so I'll quickly run through everyone else's. So next on the list is Ib. So do you want to go through your squad?
Yeah, the goalies I'm not going to go through because everyone's got the same, I think. Henderson, Pope, and Pickford. I put Wan-Bissaka in there. Shaw, I think best left back in the Prem this season. Any names from the rest are probably more or less similar to everyone else's, so I'm not going to go through each name. We'll obviously discuss it at the end. Midfielders, again, I don't think there's anyone there that Jordan Henderson probably has been injured the whole season, but I put him in there because I just think he's a brilliant captain, as well as a good player. And again, forwards, personally, I don't think there's any standout names that is Sterling, Rashford, Sancho, Kane, Calvert-Lewin, and Greenwood, who I probably think that deserve to be in there. So yeah, the only ones probably controversial, or someone else might not put in there, would probably be Wan-Bissaka, Mings. That's it really.
Okay, and then moving on to Lamb. Do you want to walk through your squad as well?
Yeah, same again. Goalies and defenders are, I think, pretty much the same. I made sure I wanted Reece James in there. Very dynamic, up and down engine. Hell of a whippy on him as well. Midfielders, no Henderson for me. I think time to let go of Henderson. I think Rice is his younger and better replacement. And Dele Alli, gotta give Dele Alli a chance. Seen what he's done now? He's been back. Completely changed Spurs. And up fronters, the usual ones, but Calvert-Lewin, I'm hoping he can get some minutes because I think he can make a big difference. And I always forget that he's like 6'2", 6'3". I always think back to when I thought he was like 5'11" and a fairly short guy. But yeah, I think he can do some damage. If Antonio had a longer season, I probably would have put him in there. I think injuries and the form, or well, not right now, but the performances Calvert-Lewin's had, I think he's going to go in there. And then Greenwood is a wild card. So yeah, that's me.
Yep. And then finally, Max, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much all names that we've had before. I think I'm the only one with Bamford in. I've gone for Bellingham as well. With the 26-man squad, I think it's a no-brainer to take him. And I think I've got about 9 right backs in my squad. No, I've only got 3. I've left Trippier at home, with Walker, Trent, and Reece James going. But I mean, we're pretty blessed with the players we got at the moment. I think it's
good crop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to move on and just flip the screen over to the differences now. So we do have a few squad differentials, and actually is 8 players in particular. So I think it's worth going through them one by one. Let's start off with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So Ibby and Lamb, you've decided to pick him.
You go first because you're a big fan.
No, I just think, to be honest, if it wasn't a 26-man squad, he'd probably be the names that I'd probably leaving out. But I think he's just the opposite to Trent, isn't he? Like, he can't really go, he's not amazing going forward, but defensively, he's a lot better than Trent. I still don't think either of them should be the right back. I think it should be Walker. I just think Walker's the most balanced out of the three. But if you are gonna have a 26-man squad, I think Wan-Bissaka's had a good enough season to get in there. Like I said, by no means am I saying he should be the first name on the team sheet, but yeah, for me, he has to be there defensively. So one-on-one, you can't get past this guy. One-on-one. I just think, marking and stuff, it could improve, right? Like in corners and things like that, you can lose a player, but just one-on-one, imagine like, I don't know, like an Mbappe or someone running at him. I just think Wan-Bissaka there, I would trust him more than I would trust Trent. Even I trust him more than I trust Walker. One-on-one, I just think no one goes past this guy. Every match he's had against City, he's had Sterling in his back pocket. So yeah, for that reason, I've got Wan-Bissaka. What about you, Len?
I put him for the same. That technically, if they come up against a speedy or tricky winger or forward, I think having Wan-Bissaka there will be way more trustworthy than having someone like Trent. The one thing that really annoys me about him though is that he's so quick to go to ground sometimes and so quick to make a challenge. But when he does, 99.9% he'll win that challenge. Very rarely will he go to ground and not make it. But yeah, that defensive solidarity he's got. It's fine. Chose him. Why didn't you two choose him?
Max, you want to take that one?
Yeah, it's probably quite harsh, really. I don't know. He's just not my preference. I'd prefer Trent. Purely because I think if we do play the 3 at the back, then I think the wing backs need to be providing decent crosses for the attacking players. So
yeah.
That's the only reason why. Completely agree that he's the best defensively and his one-on-one defending is superb. But yeah, I just think the other options with the way that we'll probably end up playing in the Euros, I just think they're gonna suit the way that we play more.
Yeah, so I guess it's a very similar logic to what Max said. So from my perspective, if I was to look at that England squad and I put it like a side-by-side comparison, the two players that I would put together or up against each other would be Wan-Bissaka and Walker. And given that it's the Euros and given what we did in the World Cup, I went for the one who was more experienced, and I went for Carl Walker. The other point I think Max alluded to is if we are going to play a back three with wing backs, you do want that attacking intent and the ability for the wing backs to provide support to the midfield and the attack. So that's why I went with Trent, and I guess in my case I went with Trippier as well.
There's a good lead on to the next one then, because us three have gone for James, and you're the only one that's gone for Trippier.
So
reason?
So reason being is purely to do with experience. So Reece James I think is a good player with a lot of potential, but he's only just recently come into the England fray. I do have a slight suspicion that Gareth Southgate might still pick him. But if we compare him to the rest of the fullbacks that I selected, they have a lot more experience in terms of winning things, in terms of England caps as well, or just in terms of overall game experience. I guess I think Reece James' time will come, but I decided to choose Trippier instead, purely because I guess I can explain more in when we go through to discuss about Trippier, but I guess in experience and also just his performances in the World Cup, we do need that seniority, especially we've got a lot of up and coming young players, but I think this Euros, especially if we want to be in a chance to win it, we do need that solid mixture of young talents, but also some senior players to actually guide them through the tournament as well.
Fair enough. Good point.
So that moves on to, I guess, Kieran Trippier, but does anyone have any defences for Reece James, given that all three of you picked him and I didn't?
I just think he's a beast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that sums it up. He is.
Moving on to Bellingham.
Hold up. Let me just justify Kieran Trippier a little bit more then. So I guess you cannot not consider someone who's just won the La Liga, and he's been a mainstay in that Atletico squad for the last 2 seasons, and he plays either as a wing back or the right back. But if you think about in the past, they've had a few right backs there before. So they had Visako, they had Juan Fran before, and they had Santiago Arias as well. He's come in. He doesn't even know the language, doesn't even know the culture. I do feel he is a bit of a Simeone player, but he does provide the support. He has good set pieces, and defensively he may not be the quickest player, but I think what he's shown in the Premier League and also La Liga is that he can work in a defensive unit squad. So he offers both that defensive and attacking mindsets. But yeah, as I said before, when we were going for Reece James, his experience in the World Cup and his number of England caps is probably worth meriting him a seat or on the plane or on the bench or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. This Euros is a bit of a weird one.
Sit with Trippier, similarly, for me, I feel guilty leaving him out. I just think we've got such a strong position in our team or in our squad that I don't know.
I think, with what we were talking about with Mam, what Lam said earlier, and Max actually mentioned as well about just proving people wrong over and over again. I think that's Reece James got at right back. I think a lot of people just said that he got in the team because he's English and Lampard is favoured him, but I think he just proved people wrong. He's basically what Mount did, but at right back. So I don't think he gets as much recognition because obviously Mount could shut people up through a goal or an assist, and at right back it's not as easy to do that. But nevertheless, I think performance-wise, Reece James has been up there, I think. So, yeah, I just think he has to get in. But yeah, there's quite a few to get through, so we move on to Bellingham?
Yeah, just before we move on to Bellingham, I just want to note that there was one right back who has had 32 assists over the last 3 seasons. You probably know who I'm talking about, but yeah, moving swiftly on.
Wan-Bissaka, I think he's talking about.
Yeah, clearly. Plays in red, right?
Diego Dalla.
Right. Anyways,
Yeah,
moving
for
on.
me, Bellingham. If it was a 23-man squad, he probably wouldn't make it for me.
Yeah.
But what an experience for him! He's gone to Germany and he's a first team regular and very regular for Dortmund at the age of 19. It's unbelievable. I've seen him. I was going to say about Reece James. I've seen him play on loan at Wigan against City, and then you just knew that he was head and shoulders talent-wise. And I've seen Jude Bellingham play against City for Birmingham, and it's the exact same thing. Sometimes you can just see that this young player is just way better than anything else on that pitch. And Bellingham's gone over to the Bundesliga, and me, like a lot of people, I just thought that he'd be a bit part player. He'd come on off the bench to begin with, maybe get a few starts, work his way up from cup competitions or whatever. But he's been unbelievable, and I just think he's going to be an important player for us in the future tournaments. So getting some experience of being within that environment.
Yeah, being in that central midfield position as well is not an easy position to play, especially if you're very, very young, and especially if you're playing in the Bundesliga, one of the top clubs in Germany.
And fans love him as well.
Yeah.
The fans absolutely love him.
I mean, did you not see his performance against City in the Champions League? And this is
the first leg.
Yeah, this is someone who's just come from the Championship. Like, Birmingham obviously rated him quite highly to retire his shirt number, which I thought was ludicrous at the time. But
no Tim part.
But in terms of his performances, like, it's second to none. Like, at his age, you would not expect that from someone who's new to the league and playing at the very, very top level, and especially in the Champions League knockout stages, when, like, I would even say that he was Dortmund's best player in those City legs.
Yeah. Ib, so you obviously hate Bellingham. Do you want to explain why?
Now, with me, I was just thinking, you want players in there that are, like, you guys are mentioning, like, okay, he's had a good season and he's one for the future. But I'm thinking right now in the present, who's going to compete to get into that 11 as opposed to, oh, if we need him, we can use him. He's a good player, he's had a good season. That's how I was looking at it. So I think if Henderson was definitely not going, so I think he was on the bench today for Liverpool. I think was he on the bench? Yeah. So I think he's probably in line to be in the squad. But I think if he was definitely ruled out, then I'd put Bellingham in there. But at the moment, I don't want it to be like another World Cup where we take him to the World Cup. He's this next big thing. Which obviously Bellingham's proven that he's obviously an amazing player, but is he going to be getting in over the players that we've got at the moment? Is he going to be competing? Like, for example, the rest of the midfielders that we've got in there, like Maddison or Grealish, you don't know who's going to play. Any of them are good enough to start that game. Whereas I feel like with Bellingham, if you put him in there, can you say for sure that Bellingham is better than Rice or Henderson, or he should be getting in ahead of them? Or is he one of those players that, okay, he's good, but not quite good enough yet? But that's the only thing. No doubt he probably will be the best out of all of them. But right now, is he going to be competing to be that, the first player on the team sheet or the first midfielder on the team sheet? I just don't think so. So that's the only reason. But yeah, no doubt he's an amazing player.
Yeah. What's next? Is it Ward-Prowse next?
Yeah.
So two words for me for Ward-Prowse: set pieces.
Set piece, yeah. Two more words for me. 3 more. Not good enough.
No.
I don't think he's good enough. He's good. He's a good player. Don't get me wrong. He's a good player, but I think representing England national team, I don't think he's good enough. With all the other players around, I don't think he's good enough to get in. That's my piece. I just don't think he's...
Definitely, I mean...
You agree with me, Matt?
You're the one that hasn't got him in.
I know. I've just realised that.
I definitely have him in.
I know.
Make a change.
It'd be
Who would
Maddison.
you get out, though?
Just looking at it now, I wouldn't have Maddison.
Okay.
I'd have Ward-Prowse over Maddison.
Harsh, but yeah, I guess we can go on to that in
I think we've got
Are
enough
you-
Maddison time.
Are you going to have a player in there just for set pieces, though?
I don't
What
think
about
I don't think it's just
No,
set
it's more
pieces
than
though.
just that. That's unfair, but I'd have him over Maddison, I think.
So the one thing is, I think it's a bit unfair saying that he's just there for set pieces, because like I think a lot of people will just be looking at that Southampton side that he plays in, week out, and the squad, for most people, they'll probably think that he's very, very average. But in terms of picking passes, in terms of keeping the ball moving and keeping things ticking, James Ward-Prowse can do that. And if you want a player who is going to be tidy in possession and not lose the ball, James Ward-Prowse. If you want someone who can basically be that person who can connect the defense and the attack, James Ward-Prowse. If you have someone who you need to take corners and free kicks, of course, James Ward-Prowse will be in with the running.
But is he going to be able to do this against some of the world's best players, though?
Well, with our squad, I don't see any reason why not. Because you think about it, the quality that he has around in Southampton, like he had Højbjerg in midfield last season with him until Højbjerg moved to Spurs, but the rest of that Southampton squad is average, and I'd like to think that the England squad that we'll have, if we have a starting 11 with Ward-Prowse in, the 10 players around him will be substantially better in terms of standard and quality than the Southampton team that he usually plays in during the Premier League. So that's just my justification.
I see where Lamb's coming from. I actually, I've got him in there, but I don't think for me he's getting in that starting 11. No. So yeah, he's good. He's definitely good.
Just there for a holiday.
60th minute, a player. We need someone to come on, refresh the team. You can bring him on, but I wouldn't be starting him. But the season he's had, he's captain as well, right? Or am I wrong? Yeah, he's captain. So obviously leadership skills there. Obviously you can't dismiss the fact that I don't think he's just a set piece merchant, but I definitely you can't dismiss the fact that he's amazing at set pieces. So I definitely have him on there. But for sure, I agree with Lam there as well. Yeah, he's not that standout. I don't think he's a standout player in that squad, like for me.
Yeah, we can go on to discuss about starting 11s later on. I think we can move over to Lam now because you've got Dele Alli.
This is a standout player, let me tell you. This is a standout player. He's had it tough. All right, been shunned by Mourinho. He's gone through his transformation. He's growing his hair, finding himself again as a player after all that early success. He's going to come back stronger. As soon as he got put back in, first game for Spurs back when Mason took charge, played well. He's been playing well. And I think getting back up there, bit of a confidence boost as well. I think he'll refine his form.
Do you think he'll go, or is that someone that you just want to go? But do you think realistically Southgate will take him?
I want him to go, and I don't think he'll take him though. I don't think he's had enough game. I don't think Southgate would have seen enough this year to warrant taking him.
Yeah, I think unfortunately his form hasn't been the greatest, which is why Mourinho decided to shun him from the team in the first place. But there might have been some other rifts there, but he hasn't had enough time to show or prove himself in any regard, given the managerial change and given how few games he's had to actually had an impact on any of the matches.
I don't know if there was a rift or anything, or if it's just Mourinho's style of when he, treats them harshly to try and get that fire in them and to see what they've really got. If that was it, maybe that's just not how Dele Alli responds. Maybe he responds more to positive, a more kind of loving approach rather than Mourinho's strict, stern, I'm going to shun you and maybe put you in the reserves until you show me that you really want it.
That's the only... He's only got the stick, hasn't he, Jose?
Yeah. I don't think he knows how to take a player in and have a loving word with them.
Yeah, I do like Ali. I just think we're far too strong in that area of the pitch to be taking him to the Euros.
Yeah, and then that moves on to James Maddison. So I think I was the only one who left him out.
No, I'm also not Maddison. I wanted Ward-Prowse.
Is that in reflection after seeing all the squads, or?
No. I think it's just an error on my part. But yeah, the similar point to the point I just made. Then I think it's an area of the pitch where we're too strong.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think in that aspects, like Foden, Grealish, Mount are the 3 players that I would put ahead of Maddison. Plus, he did have a bit of an injury spell as well. But nevertheless, like, it's a bit harsh leaving him out. But unfortunately, the quality, yeah, Ibby, do you want to go ahead and argue the case?
He's a baller, man. I think Maddison, in the whole team, you know that thing, when you pick up the ball and on the spin you play it behind the defender. I think no one does that better. I'll go as far as saying in the Prem right now that I know the last 5-6 games he's not been good for Leicester. He's been left out maybe because of injury and stuff. But on that turn, playing it behind the defender, for Vardy to run onto, you know what? You've got pass that on the spin and then just play it behind the defender. I just think Maddison's amazing. Like, yeah, I can't see how you could leave them out. Maybe because Mount and Foden have stepped up, but yeah, if you need a bit of magic, 75th minute, 70th minute, even if he's on the bench, you have to have Maddison in there.
Yeah, exact reason I've got him in there as well. I don't think he'd start, but I think when you need a bit of a spark at the end, I think get Maddison on. I think he can deliver. Yeah. Final one, Max. Bamford.
Yeah, I said about him earlier when we were talking about the best players in the Premier League this season in each position. I just think the goals he scored, and he's consistently proved people wrong. No doubt, if he was called up to the squad, some people would say he's not good enough. He can't score, and if given the chance, I'm sure he'd have the fire in his belly. I mean, this season in the Premier League for Leeds, he scored 17 goals and got 7 assists, which is like real good numbers for a first full season as the first choice striker in the Premier League. So, yeah, I know there's a lot of competition, but I just think he would be my personal choice to take because he works hard and scores goals. Not as good as Kane, obviously, but he'd definitely be in the squad for me.
So Max, who did you leave out? When you put Bamford in, which forward did you leave out compared to the rest of them?
I don't know. I think.
I think you put an extra in somewhere else.
Yeah, I think I had one less defender than everyone else.
Yeah. There's also another 2 for 2. So Max and Hugh, you've both gone for Ings. Obviously, me and Ib haven't.
Oh yeah, I missed that off this squad differentials probably because of space, but
I only just saw it now.
Yeah, that's probably me being a Liverpool bias, but I think, like as I said, with Ward-Prowse, I think that Southampton team is very, very average. But the thing is, in terms of getting goals, the main source of the goals for Southampton have come from Danny Ings, and that's not just this season; it was last season as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Because if you take Ings out of the Southampton squad, especially when he was injured, where did the goals come from? There wasn't really any other player who had stepped up. I know Che Adams forked in a few goals. I know Minamino scored 2. Just going to put that out there because he's an Asian player. But, yeah, Max, I saw that. Yeah.
I thought you were going to make the Liverpool link.
On that note, Hamza Chowdhury, first Bengali to play in the Prem.
And first to win the FA Cup as well.
Is he the first?
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to say something about the FA Cup final, but I think given circumstances, I probably should keep it neutral here. But anyways, moving. Yeah, never mind. I'm not going to repeat myself. So I guess that's pretty much it for the squads. And I know that we're running a little bit over time, but we did discuss about the chances of England in the Euros, and I know some of us were saying the quarters, and I optimistically said we could get to the semi-finals, but we probably won't go all the way because a team like France, Portugal, or whoever, or Spain for that matter, might just come and just absolutely trounce us in the semis. But in terms of starting 11s, I think what would be a good idea is just to quickly go through like who would you have as part of your starting 11s, or who would you have in contention for your lineup? Because if you were talking about players like you would have them in the squad, but you would have them in the starting 11, or you don't think they're quite ready to be selected, so they shouldn't be considered. So I guess, how do you want to do this? Do we want to lock in a formation and then work our way around it, or?
No,
I think go
just
for
think,
our own formation.
Yeah.
just read out your 11.
Yeah. Okay.
Are we basing this off the fact that it's 3 or 5 at the back, or can we still
It's up
Hugh,
to you,
go
Lam.
for a 4?
What's on the screen, Hugh, by the way?
Creative license.
We've gone back to the cameras, by the way. So, Ibby, do you want to go ahead and start?
I'm going to go with Henderson in goal. Are we doing it? What am I doing? My whole 11? Or are we going to do goalkeepers, defenders? I think
do
let's
that
go.
then.
Yeah, because otherwise we're gonna forget what the other person said.
I'd go Henderson too.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I would actually go Nick Pope.
Defender.
The saviour, yeah. And then who did you say, Matt? So did you say?
No, I just said defenders.
Okay, defenders. Right. If I'm playing 4, if I'm playing 4 at the back, I'm going Walker right back. Shall we do 4-3-3 just to make it easier?
Yeah.
Or do you want? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm like that.
Yeah. Walker.
My right back would be Trent.
Trent as well.
I'd probably go Trent.
Midfield. Not midfield. Centre back. 2 centre backs.
Okay. Does someone else want to go first this time?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'll go Maguire and Stones for me.
Yeah, it's no brainer. Same for
Gotta
me as
be.
well.
Left back. I'm gonna go Chilwell.
Sure.
Sure. For sure.
This is a tough one. I would probably go ahead and choose Chilwell over Shaw.
Okay.
Wow.
Centre. The
Yeah,
3 midfielders here.
Centre midfielders. So this is the midfield 3, I guess. Bellingham. No, I'm kidding. So I guess.
Hold on. By the way, 1 second. You went with Trent after the 20-minute segment on Trippier.
Yeah, I'd still go with Trent if we're playing a back 4, but even if we go
In a
with
5, you'd go Trippier.
If I go with 5, I'd still go with
that-
Trent. Like, even with that segment about Trippier, I'm a Liverpool fan, so I have to back Trent. And his set pieces, his assists in general, and his passing ability.
Who was your midfield, sorry?
So my midfield, I have Jordan Henderson. And it's a tough one because I would only choose between Mount or Foden. I wouldn't have both. I'm probably going to say Foden, because I think he probably would have be a little bit more defensive. Mount, if we were playing like a 10, but I'm choosing midfield 3 based off like 1 holding and then 2 centre midfielders. So I'll go Henderson, Foden, and yeah, given that everything I said about Ward-Prowse, I can't actually say any other name than Ward-Prowse, so I'm going to have to go with that.
I'm going with 1 holding, 1 number 8, 1 number 10, and I know Southgate would never play this, but it'd be Jordan Henderson. I think he's good enough to play that holding midfield by himself. And then I would play Mount as number 8 and Foden as number 10. But I know, like I said, Southgate would never do that.
That's what I'd pick as well. No, sorry, I'd have Rice instead of Henderson.
Yeah, same.
That's a shout, actually. Yeah.
Rice, Foden, Mount.
I was thinking maybe Grealish instead of Mount, but I think the way Grealish and Foden play, they like the ball to be going through them quite a bit. I think having 2 of a very similar player would get
Mount
a bit.
Works hard enough to.
Yeah, to warrant that.
Definitely.
But yeah.
Go on, then front 3 then, Lamb. You can go first.
All right, Kane, Kane. I'd have to go Kane, Rashford, Sancho. I think. Actually, no. Kane, Rashford, Sterling. Kane, Rashford, Sterling.
Same.
Nice and pacey.
Same for me.
What are you?
So on the right, I would go with Jadon Sancho. On the left, I would go Raheem Sterling, and through the middle, Harry Kane.
Okay. I'm going with Kane. I think start of the season, Rashford, Kane, Sterling. But I think after the season, probably Kane, Grealish, and Rashford. I know Grealish has had a bit of a injury spell, but I don't think Sterling had a good season. I think Grealish is a better player than Sterling as well, like decision making, things like that. And Rashford, he's a bit erratic. Like, I think sometimes, decision making isn't great, but his ability just, I think, warrants him getting into the team. So Kane, Rashford, and Grealish, Kane, Rashford, and Grealish, yeah. And then definitely Greenwood will play a part in every game. I just think he's an amazing finisher. So I think every game, whether 70th minute, 60th minute, I would bring Greenwood on.
Yeah.
Yep, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
That's what he's there for.
I'm also glad none of you called out the hypocrisy where I chose Trent over Trippier and then I still included Ward-Prowse on my justification that I did a few minutes ago. But yeah, anyways, let's leave it as that then. I think that is pretty much everything and all that we have time for. But just to run through quickly, so I know that we mentioned about our predictions of where England will finish, but Croatia, Scotland, and Czech Republic. Like, do you see us getting 3 wins out of 3 in the group, or how do you see it?
2 wins and a draw.
Yeah, I think Scotland and Czech Republic they're must wins. Croatia though,
I think we
Kane
can
squares
beat Croatia because they're not as good as they were because
no.
The squad's aged.
They have got an aging squad as opposed to our squad that's sort of full of young talent. It's a completely different England team that they'll be facing, really. So yeah, I'd like to think that we would beat Croatia, but I mean, we've all supported England long enough to know that that's not really how it works with England, is it?
Yeah. I said a second ago, if Kane squares it this time, different story. Different story. Yeah, should be getting through that.
Hopefully.
Leave it there.
Yep. I think on that note, let's wrap it and call it for the day. Thanks for everyone who's been listening. And yeah, given that we're a new podcast, we do appreciate all the support we can get. So be sure to check out our socials. So Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. At Internet Podcast for most of them, or / Internet Podcast for Facebook. So yeah, make sure you drop us a follow, a like, a subscribe on YouTube as well. And that is pretty much all we have to discuss today. We probably will continue with the discussion on the Euros in the coming weeks. We also have the discussion of the Champions League final as well. That's due to come in upcoming episodes as well. So other than that, it's a goodbye from me, and I guess it'd be Max and Lam. Do you have any closing notes, or are we good to close?
Cheers.
Yeah, that's the next episode.
All good.
Yep. In that case, once again, thanks for listening, and we hope to see you again soon.